4 minutes ago, Representative Grace Meng uttered a single name that completely shattered FBI Director Kash Patel on live television: Monica Witt. Hello, and welcome back to Silent Docket. 4 minutes ago, a single name profoundly changed the atmosphere of an entire room. It was not a sterile statistical figure. It was not a redacted case file number. It was not a complicated bureaucratic designation meant to confuse the public. It was a human name, and the moment it was spoken, absolutely everything in that room shifted. 4 minutes ago, Representative Grace Meng firmly stated a name inside the heavily monitored chamber of the House Appropriations Subcommittee, a name that FBI Director Kash Patel clearly and unequivocally did not expect her to say. That name was Monica Witt. The exact moment that name landed in the quiet chamber, Director Patel's physical posture fundamentally changed in a way that it had not changed at any single point during the prior hour and 40 minutes of his grueling testimony. His right hand, which had been resting loosely and comfortably on the wooden table through every single prior line of questioning, suddenly and defensively moved to grip the table's edge. His jaw visibly shifted by a mere fraction of an inch, a tiny movement that the high-definition committee room cameras, positioned close enough to read microscopic facial expressions, recorded with absolute, undeniable clarity. Why did this specific name trigger such a visceral reaction? Because Monica Witt is absolutely not a political talking point. She is not a partisan construct manufactured for a cable news debate. She is a very real, incredibly dangerous person. She is a former United States Air Force intelligence specialist and a former military sergeant. She is a woman who was granted elite access to some of the most highly sensitive, strictly classified intelligence operations hidden deep within the American national security apparatus. Tragically, she is a woman who deliberately converted her top-tier security clearance into a devastating weapon, aimed directly against the very country she had solemnly sworn an oath to protect. She is a traitor who successfully defected to the Islamic Republic of Iran, was officially indicted by a federal grand jury back in 2019, and remains a protected fugitive actively hiding in Tehran to this very day. And the highly specialized intelligence unit that successfully uncovered Monica Witt, the elite team that painstakingly built the complex counterintelligence case against her, the squad that positively identified her movements and meticulously documented exactly how she had compromised critical American intelligence sources and operational methods for the direct benefit of the Iranian government, was an FBI unit known as CI-12. This is the exact same unit that Director Kash Patel aggressively gutted on January 27, 2025, an astonishing 4 days before the United States officially went to war with Iran. You need to watch this entire breakdown until the very end, because what Representative Meng accomplished in the subsequent 9 minutes was not some abstract, academic argument concerning basic personnel management or tedious budgetary capacity. She explicitly named exactly what was lost to the nation. She did not merely discuss how many administrative positions were eliminated or what specific percentage of operational capability had theoretically degraded. She talked about what was truly lost: the actual investigative work, the active espionage cases, and the real names of human beings whose personal freedom and physical safety depended entirely on the dedicated agents that Director Patel impulsively fired simply for finding out about his personal phone records. If you are new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe right now and turn on your notifications, because the formal Inspector General review that Representative Meng has now officially requested is the very first official, legal process that will force the Federal Bureau of Investigation to meticulously document on the permanent public record exactly what irreplaceable institutional knowledge walked out the door when those specific agents were abruptly terminated. Before we analyze the hearing, let me tell you exactly who Monica Witt is, so you understand the terrifying stakes of this situation. She officially joined the United States Air Force in 1997 as a highly trained intelligence specialist. She proudly held top-level national security clearances. She possessed direct access to highly classified defense programs and covert methods, and she deployed overseas multiple times in service to her country. By every single measurable metric visible on official paper, she was the absolute ideal operative that the American national security apparatus was specifically designed to produce. And then, the unthinkable happened. She began secretly communicating with Iranian intelligence operatives. She systematically identified specific undercover American intelligence agents to her Iranian handlers, who immediately utilized that devastating information to operate against highly vulnerable American assets. She formally defected to Iran in 2013. leaving a trail of shattered security protocols in her wake. Following her defection, the FBI spent years meticulously building an ironclad case from the outside looking in. They dedicated countless hours to tracing the catastrophic damage she had inflicted and successfully identifying her shadowy handlers. Finally, in 2019, a federal grand jury officially indicted her on severe espionage charges, specifically citing her for accessing classified government networks to deliver highly sensitive national defense information to a hostile foreign government, and for identifying undercover American intelligence agents to Iranian military officers. Today, she remains safely harbored in Iran. The federal espionage indictment against her remains completely open, and the dedicated FBI agents who painstakingly built that complex case, who meticulously maintained those thousands of case files, and who deeply understood that intricate network of foreign handlers from years of actively working the investigation, were all stationed within the elite unit known as CI-12. If you are still watching this video, please hit the like button right now and drop a comment below, because the detailed history I just described is not merely a dry background briefing or an abstract lesson in institutional history. It is the definitive answer to the piercing question that Representative Meng asked inside that tense hearing room. When leadership claims that CI-12 is just another unit, when they confidently assert that the FBI maintains robust counterintelligence capability, and when they casually state that personnel transitions are safely managed for operational continuity, you have to ask the critical question: who exactly is managing the continuity on the Monica Witt espionage file? Who currently holds the deep, irreplaceable institutional knowledge of her foreign network? Who precisely knows which specific Iranian intelligence handlers she actively worked with? Drop a comment below right now. Do you honestly think the specific agents who built the massive Monica Witt case are still currently employed at the FBI? The congressional session had already been underway for a grueling hour and 40 minutes when Representative Meng's turn to speak finally arrived. For the third time during the prior sessions, she had successfully established the precise timing of the CI-12 firings and had aggressively cornered Director Patel on his repeated use of the word robust. However, today, she had meticulously prepared for a fundamentally different line of questioning. She was no longer asking about mere words. She was now asking about actual, tangible intelligence work. She arrived at the hearing carrying a simple folder containing exactly 4 carefully selected documents. She placed the folder onto the wooden table in front of her without opening it, locked her eyes onto Director Patel, and stated firmly, "Director, I want to ask you about Monica Witt." The massive committee room instantly went dead quiet. It was that specific, heavy type of quiet that only occurs in political rooms when a name is spoken aloud that absolutely everyone present immediately recognizes as profoundly real and immensely consequential. Director Patel's hand instinctually moved to grip the edge of the table. Representative Meng intentionally waited for 4 long seconds, allowing the tension to fully saturate the air. Monica Witt was officially indicted in 2019 for severe espionage and for providing highly sensitive national defense information to the nation of Iran, Meng began, her voice echoing with absolute authority. She deliberately identified undercover American intelligence agents to her Iranian handlers. She is currently a wanted fugitive, actively residing in Tehran. The elite unit CI-12 built that massive espionage case. Is that strictly accurate? Director Patel nodded carefully, fully aware of the trap being set. The Monica Witt case was indeed a significant counterintelligence achievement involving multiple critical components of the broader intelligence community. Yes, he answered cautiously. Good, Meng replied coldly. She finally opened her physical folder and deliberately removed a single printed document. She held the document up high for exactly 3 seconds, just long enough for the array of broadcast cameras to definitively confirm it possessed an official FBI header before she set it face down on the table. She did not begin reading from it quite yet. Director, on January 27, 2025, you abruptly terminated 12 highly trained agents and support staff from the CI-12 unit. Meng stated, her pacing, deliberate and unyielding. I have explicitly asked you about this highly controversial action before, and you have continuously described it merely as a standard personnel decision based strictly upon a routine operational assessment. She looked at him with a piercing gaze. Were any of those 12 specific people actively involved in the Monica Witt espionage investigation? Director Patel's jaw visibly tightened under the pressure. Representative, I cannot publicly discuss the specific classified case assignments of any terminated personnel, he deflected defensively. Meng simply nodded once, fully anticipating the evasion. Let me try to phrase it a bit differently, she countered smoothly. She reached out and flipped the face-down document over. This document is the official CI-12 unit roster from January of 2025. She slowly ran her index finger along a highlighted section of the paper. And this is the official Monica Witt case file's lead agent assignment record, also officially dated from January of 2025. She set the crucial document down flat so the overhead broadcast cameras could capture a clear, high-definition view of both official rosters sitting on the exact same page. The designated lead agent on the Monica Witt espionage case appears prominently on both of these lists. Director, Meng announced clearly. He was an active CI-12 agent. He was abruptly terminated on January 27th. Who exactly is running the highly sensitive Monica Witt case right now? Director Patel's face cycled through three distinct, highly revealing expressions in the span of approximately 5 seconds. The very first expression was his carefully constructed, controlled, professional mask. The second expression was the frantic, internal calculation of a desperate man actively trying to determine which specific answer to a direct question about an open, highly classified espionage case would prove to be the least politically and legally damaging. The third and final expression was the defeated look he invariably produces when neither of those complex mental calculations successfully provides an escape route. Senator, Patel finally stammered, strictly reverting to rehearsed talking points. The Monica Witt investigation remains an active, ongoing counterintelligence matter, and the ongoing staffing and operational case management on that specific file is being handled strictly according to standard FBI procedures. Meng stared at him with absolute disbelief. Standard procedures? She challenged sharply. She decisively pulled out the second document from her prepared folder. Director, the designated lead agent on the Monica Witt investigation, was the single, solitary agent within the entire FBI Counterintelligence Division whose primary daily case assignment was that specific, massive file. She held the new document high for the entire room to witness. That is an undeniable, documented fact clearly stated in this official case management record. He was not merely some high-level supervisor who loosely oversaw a massive team working the case from afar. He was the actual, boots-on-the-ground case agent. He was the single human being operating within the Federal Bureau of Investigation who bore the primary, ultimate responsibility for managing one of the absolute most significant, highly active Iranian espionage cases in the Bureau's entire current intelligence portfolio. She slammed the document down onto the table with a sharp, audible crack. When you abruptly fired him, what exactly was the operational transition protocol utilized for his highly classified case files? Director Patel nervously opened his mouth to formulate a response, but Meng aggressively continued speaking before he could utter a single syllable, forcefully dominating the momentum of the hearing. Because, Director, the universally accepted standard transition protocol for a highly complex counterintelligence case containing years of meticulously built, deeply entrenched institutional knowledge involves, at the absolute minimum, a rigorous 90-day handoff period, Meng lectured passionately. It requires multiple, in-depth operational briefings to properly educate the incoming agent. It demands strict read-in procedures for highly classified operational details, and it absolutely requires the careful, methodical introduction to highly sensitive reporting sources out in the field. She leaned forward, locking her eyes onto the director. He was abruptly fired on a Tuesday. Was there a standard 90-day handoff executed for this critical national security file? Beside the director, Patel's legal attorney had slowly put down his pen, sensing the profound danger of the moment. Senator, Patel deflected once more, his voice lacking conviction. Highly sensitive personnel transitions involving active counterintelligence cases are consistently handled with the appropriate level of operational care, and I am simply not in a legal position to confirm any specific, classified operational details regarding an open case within a public setting. Representative Meng looked at him in total silence for a long, agonizing moment, allowing his non-answer to echo loudly in the minds of everyone watching. Then, she delivered a devastatingly simple observation. You are notably not denying that the critical handoff was dangerously rushed. Patel said absolutely nothing in response. Without missing a beat, Meng picked up the third prepared document from her folder. Director CI-12 was not merely just another bureaucratic unit passively tracking Iranian threats in some abstract academic sense. She held the page up prominently. This document is a formal public statement officially issued by the Society of Former Special Agents of the FBI, released directly after your highly controversial January firings. She began reading from the text directly, ensuring every word was perfectly articulated. The elite counterespionage unit known as CI-12 specifically focuses on massive media leaks, global espionage rings, and dire international threats directed against America emanating directly from hostile countries such as Cuba and Iran. More broadly, CI squads represent the absolute lead domestic teams utilized for investigating severe insider threats and dangerous foreign intelligence activity currently operating on American soil. She set the statement down firmly. The lead domestic teams. This is absolutely not some minor, secondary, operational capacity. This is not a redundant backup function to be casually discarded. This is the absolute primary domestic counterintelligence mission of the United States. She glared at him with righteous fury. After you recklessly fired 12 of its most elite agents, a mere 4 days before this nation entered into a military conflict with Iran, who exactly remains as the lead domestic team responsible for investigating dangerous Iranian intelligence activity operating right here on American soil? Patel desperately tried to deploy the standard, pre-approved bureaucratic answer once again. The FBI continues to maintain a highly robust counterintelligence capability operating across all of our various field offices and divisions nationwide, and our dedicated teams remain fully engaged in their mission. Meng shook her head. Just slightly. Just once. It was the minimal, highly controlled gesture of a seasoned investigator who fully expected that exact hollow answer and who had prepared a specific, devastating counterattack. Director, I am absolutely not asking you about all field offices in a general sense, Meng clarified sharply. I am specifically asking you about one highly specialized unit, tasked with one highly specific mission, that was specifically and intentionally gutted by one specific, terrible decision that you personally made on January 27th. She decisively picked up the fourth and final document from her folder. This document is an official, internal, FBI operational assessment that your very own bureau provided to this specific subcommittee under our legal oversight authority. She held it up high, wielding it like a sword. It explicitly describes CI-12's degraded operational status directly following your January personnel actions, and it specifically utilizes the terrifying phrase, capacity degradation. She carefully set the damning document down right next to the society statement, right next to the case management record, and right next to the unit roster. Capacity degradation, Meng repeated, letting the terrible reality of the phrase sink in. The primary lead agent assigned to the Monica Witt espionage case is gone. The mandatory 90-day operational handoff was almost certainly never completed, and this country is currently at war with the nation of Iran. She looked directly into Patel's eyes. She wore the hardened expression of an official who had been performing this grueling oversight work for long enough to have completely stopped performing for the cameras and had started simply demanding the raw, unvarnished truth. Director, I want to give you one final, clear opportunity to fully explain to this congressional subcommittee and to the American people watching at home exactly why the unprecedented decision you made on January 27th, 2025 was genuinely in the best interest of our national security, Meng challenged, her voice ringing with absolute clarity. Not in the interest of internal personnel management, not in the interest of bureaucratic operational efficiency. I am asking how this was in the interest of the national security of the United States of America. She leaned in closer to the microphone. I want you to logically explain to this nation why terminating the single lead agent assigned to the Monica Witt espionage case a mere 4 days before launching a major military operation against Iran was the right operational decision for this country to make. The silence that followed was deafening. The silence lasted for an agonizing, unbearable 17 seconds. 17 seconds on live, national television is an absolute eternity. In that prolonged silence, you could feel the immense weight of the institution crumbling. His highly paid defense attorney sat completely motionless. The entire committee room was paralyzed, motionless as statues. The silence lasted only 17 seconds, but for FBI Director Kash Patel, it was the moment his entire career and his carefully constructed web of excuses officially turned to ash. The atmosphere inside the House Appropriations Subcommittee chamber had reached a state of absolute paralyzed stasis. Even the two armed Capitol police officers, stationed like sentinels at the heavy wooden rear doors of the chamber, seemed caught in the gravitational pull of the moment. They had instinctively stepped forward. The very second Representative Grace Meng's voice rose, crossing that invisible line from precise, clinical inquiry to a roar of impassioned demand. Yet, in the wake of her final question, they held their rigid positions, not making a single sound, as if any movement might shatter the fragile silence that had gripped the room. Director Patel, the man who had walked into this hearing with the arrogance of an untouchable bureaucrat, was now a portrait of visible, nervous collapse. He looked at Representative Meng, but he could not hold her gaze. His eyes darted downward, landing on the four devastating documents arranged with surgical precision on the table before him, documents that acted as the physical evidence of his failure. He glanced sideways at his attorney, but the man was a frozen statue, offering no lifeline, no legal loophole, and no escape. Patel looked back down at the polished wood of the table, his reflection staring back at him as a stranger. When he finally managed to speak, the voice that emerged was a ghost of the one that had dominated the previous hour. It carried something profoundly different, something entirely absent from the 3 grueling sessions he had endured with this subcommittee. This voice did not carry a shred of confidence. It was utterly devoid of bureaucratic authority or the smooth, practiced cadence of a powerful official who had routinely navigated congressional minefields for 17 long months. He had arrogantly concluded that he could survive any inquiry through redirection and jargon, but in this specific, vulnerable second, he had run out of architecture to hide behind. "Senator," Patel finally whispered, his voice remarkably hollow, sounding more like a confession than a defense. "All personnel decisions were made strictly in the best interest of the Bureau and in the interest of the nation, as I personally understood those vital interests at that specific time." The room didn't just stay quiet, it felt as if the air itself had been withdrawn. Representative Meng did not reply immediately. She looked at him in total, unblinking silence, allowing the sheer inadequacy of his defense to hang in the air for everyone to taste. "As you understood them," she repeated slowly, her tone dripping with a cold, calculated disdain. She picked up her pen and carefully wrote a note in her personal notebook, the scratching of the nib on paper the only sound in the room. She allowed another 5-10 seconds to pass before finally setting the pen down onto the desk with a definitive click. "Director," Meng continued, her voice now vibrating with a focused, righteous indignation that seemed to resonate in the very walls of the chamber. The dedicated agents who tirelessly tracked and built the case against Monica Witt understood those vital national interests too. She spoke of the years these men and women had sacrificed, years spent deep inside the labyrinth of a hostile, dangerous foreign intelligence network. She detailed the thousands of classified files they maintained, the sensitive human sources they cultivated in the shadows, and the grueling, unglamorous, totally invisible counterintelligence work that the FBI's flashy public statistics absolutely never capture. These were the invisible pillars upon which the safety and survival of the nation depended. She paused, ensuring the immense weight of that sacrifice was felt by every person in the room and every citizen watching at home. Then, she dropped the ultimate bombshell, the revelation that stripped away any remaining pretense of professional management. And yet, you abruptly fired them all in a single, chaotic day, completely without executing a complete, mandatory, operational transition protocol. Meng accused, her voice hardening into a blade. And you did this simply because their names incidentally appeared within a classified case file connected directly to a legal search of the president's personal property. She slowly turned her head away from Patel, ignoring the other committee members. She stared directly and intently into the broadcast cameras, breaking the fourth wall to speak directly to the American public. "That is absolutely not standard personnel management," Meng declared, her passion reaching its peak. "That is absolutely not a routine operational assessment, and that is absolutely not in the best interest of this nation." With the deliberate movements of a person closing a casket, she methodically gathered her 4 devastating documents and placed them back into her folder. She looked back at Director Patel one final, decisive time, her eyes conveying a message of terrifying finality. "You gutted our defense, Director," she stated, her words echoing like a judgment from history. "And the innocent people who are ultimately paying the terrible price for that reckless decision are certainly not sitting safely inside this comfortable room today." The hearing did not end there, though for all intents and purposes, it was over. For another 23 tedious minutes, other subcommittee members went through the motions, asking mundane questions about budget line items and basic financial allocations. Director Patel slowly managed to recover a sliver of his outward professional composure, but it was a brittle, false mask, the kind of composure one finds only when there is no other choice but to remain trapped in the witness chair until the session officially adjourns. But the damage was permanent. Long before the chairman's gavel fell, the explosive video clip was already saturating the internet, spreading like wildfire across every social platform. The names Meng, Patel, and Monica Witt were being etched into the public consciousness alongside the image of those 4 undeniable documents. The agonizing 17-second silence became a viral symbol of government failure, and the unforgettable 8 words became the unavoidable headline of the entire session. You gutted our defense, Director. This is why you need to subscribe to this channel right now. The formal Inspector General review that Representative Meng has officially requested is not just another report. It includes a legal demand to surrender the Monica Witt case transition records. Those specific, unalterable records will definitively show whether a proper 90-day operational handoff was ever actually completed, or if our national security was traded for political convenience. When those documents finally come out into the light, the truth will be permanently etched into the official congressional record. Please share this video everywhere. What we witnessed today was a masterclass in accountability. 4 intense minutes, 4 undeniable documents, and one single name that shattered the silence of a powerful man who could not explain why he left the nation vulnerable.